Holy smokes. Woo! Holy smokes. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you to all who gave all for our protection. We are free because of the bravery of the men and women who have gone before us to serve this country and gave their all. Thank you to all the veterans out there. Everybody gave some gave all. Happy Memorial Day to all of you. Prayers to everyone. I was not expecting to do a show on Memorial Day on Monday the 26th. I definitely was not expecting to do a show of this magnitude on Memorial Day, Monday, May 26th. We have often said in April that it's April chatter, but May matters. Holy smokes. I might have undersold that just a little bit. Also, what I might have undersold, okay, I gotta keep it together here. What I might have also undersold is the battle that is going on between everybody. everybody in college sports. Now, there has been, I have been notified, I have been given a lot of I cannot believe what people have been saying out there. It has shook me to the core how out of touch some of our brethrens are out there in the college football landscape. I have been accused of grifting. John Kurtz has been accused of grifting. College football mafia has been accused of grifting. Everybody has been accused of grifting because we have been portraying the Power Four conferences of being in a battle between each other. I will say this. I am guilty of one thing. It's not grifting. I am guilty of even myself underselling what is truly going on out there. And I have called it a war. When I did the live show and I said the Big Ten was under attack. Oh, you can't say that, Greg. The Big Ten's not under attack. Everybody's kumbaya. And by the way, during that live show, I did not blame the Big 12 and the ACC. I don't blame the pushback. I don't blame the pushback either way. But I think we've been underselling this story. Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports, put out an article today that in this article, there is at least 5 bombs that went off. One of those bombs okay, I'm going to stop myself. I always got to make sure I can harvest the field again. I'm not going to step on anybody's toes. Look at the screen title. Look at that screen title. Clandestine call. Several ACC Big 12 presidents meet with Smash Capital. A recent call. Several Big 12 ACC presidents. The commissioners. The commissioners were not on the call. Several Big 12 ACC presidents. Not all of them. Several of them. You've got inside the SEC. We've talked about this. Some schools are looking at the other schools and saying, we've all signed on to these rules and now you're going to have this big, great advantage over us because of your state law. You've got the Big 12, a Big 10 just recently, once again talking to these, I think it was 4 bidders of private equity, possibly selling a percentage of their conference. The Big 10, who's got $450 million cash on hand. Why is the Big 10 thinking of doing this? You've got the SEC just recently delving into a possible Goldman's we are going to talk about it all here on this live show. Look, when and if this House NCAA settlement becomes official, and it maybe is tomorrow, the embargo, these stories are going to just... We've already seen it start. We are going to have so many different stories out there. And I don't have the answers. I'm going to try to give you the best peek around the corner as possible. But nobody knows where all this is going. But we do know this. This isn't kumbaya. This is nothing. In this article that we're going to go through, a Big 12 athletic director said, hold on, I guess we're going to war. Ross Dellenger, in this article, this was his words. Ross Dellenger said, the divide among the four power leagues is more evident than ever. So let's start there. We're not all getting along, ladies and gentlemen. We're not. That's number one. Number two is that the Big 12 is looking out for the Big 12. The ACC is looking out for the ACC. The Big 10 is looking out for the Big 10, and the SEC is looking out for the SEC. That's number two. Number three, the autonomy for governance has nothing to do with the CFP governance. The CFP governance is an LLC. There are voting rights. The Big Ten and the SEC have the advantage, and they're completely two different entities. The autonomy for governance, by the way, if all four power conferences agree on an issue, whether to move the baseball tournament forward in the calendar or backwards in the calendar, if all four of those conferences agree, they have 65% of the vote. And by the way, there is a great pushback from the other 28% of the conferences because they don't want that much power in the hands of the autonomy for it. But whatever. There are issues all over the place. Nobody trusts anybody. But the college football playoff governance is completely different than the autonomy for. We've got issues. We've got a battle going on. We've got an absolute battle going on. There are conferences that are nipping at the heels of the Big 12 and the ACC and the Big 10 and the SEC saying you are accumulating too much power in this autonomous four. There are the Big 12 and the ACC nipping at the heels of the Big 10 and the SEC saying you have too much power when it comes to the college football playoff governance. In this article, you've got Ross Dellenger reporting that just recently the SEC presidents have secretly cloak and dagger, have given the power to Greg Sankey, the commissioner. They have given him the absolute power, flexibility to break away from the NCAA completely and entirely, their football, everything. There are 35 bombs that went off in this article. Unbelievable. Well, some of it is believable. I have gone over the reasons why. I believe the Big 12 is trying to get this private equity, private capital deal done. An infusion of cash, plus the fact that they're trying to gain this long takeoff strip when it comes to getting a partnership with the Redbird Capital that has assets that they're trying to merge with Paramount Plus, CBS. If you think about, we're going to go through the article here because some of you are saying, what the hell is he talking about here? Greg has gone off the complete deep end. No, I haven't. In fact, all this stuff that I've been talking about, if I'm guilty of anything, I'm guilty of underselling, not overselling. Not when you go through this Ross Dellenger article. I have failed each and every one of you. I have failed Keelball. I have failed Tumasta. I have failed the Trench Grinch. I have failed Stormy Cyclone. I have failed MBM. I have failed all of you. Not because I've been saying there's a war going on. It's because I have undersold it. I can't remember what I was. There's a lot more to this. I can't even remember where I'm at here. Unbelievable. Let's get to it. Let's go through a roll call real quick here. I'm sure I've already missed some people. I apologize. Bill G, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Michigan Sports, Joyful One, Bruce Harris, Stormy Cyclone, Les Austin Jr., all of you. And I mean all of you are knighted officially, cloak and dagger. All of you are members of our YouTube channel. Please, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to the incredible generosity of Bill G. Bill G, thank you so very much for all of your help, all of your support over the last over the last couple of years. Without your support, we would not be able to do this show day in and day out and try to give you the most accurate peek around the corner. Talking about cloak and dagger. There's so much cloak and dagger stuff going on right now. It's and there is going to be some reporting. Again, only those who have watched this show for a long time. Hopefully some of you will remember I said this, but I said a couple months ago, I said there's going to be a private capital meeting, private equity meeting between some schools in the Big 12, some schools in the ACC, and it was going to happen in early spring. Does anybody, other than the previous report, hopefully someone remembers I said that. I said that quite a few times. Thank you, Healing, Florida. Thank you, Pinball. I'm afraid to even speculate on that, because if I start speculating, I'm going to be called crazy by a lot of you, if not all of you. I have no idea where the hell all this is going. But let's get to the Ross Dellenger article, because it's a long one and we're going to take it into pieces. This is going to be an extraordinary long monologue. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. We've got a lot of time. We can stay on for a lot longer than 2 hours. The little general knows that this is an important show. The little general knows this is an important show. And I don't, and each and every one of you are probably going to have a different take on where this is all going, because there's so many pieces to this. There are so many pieces to this. I honestly, after the show, I'm going to be back on the phone. I know the SEC spring meetings are starting now. I'm fortunate to have, we have some PATC, we have some relationships with some people in that room. This is not just this has so many different layers to it. This has so many different layers to it. This isn't just ACC Big 12 versus SEC Big 10. It is. I mean, that's a big piece of this. And it should be. And I don't blame the battle going on. I get it. But I think it's even, and by the way, most of those battles, not all those battles, Notre Dame is on the Big 12 ACC side. I'm going to get to Notre Dame in a moment, which is going to get everybody in a tizzy. But that's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. Because I'm a grifter, even though I've undersold this story for months. There's a battle going on inside the SEC. I'm afraid to even say this because, God, I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get killed by so many of you. I think there is so much distrust going on right now, even, of course, in the ACC, obviously, but even the Big 12, that might be the most aligned conference. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think there are schools in the Big 12 that would just like to have a conference level agreement with a third party, Redbird Capital, and that's a big enough deal, and let's go from there. But there are some Big 12 entities that want to do a bigger, they want the whole enchilada. Remember when over the last months, we here at Peek Around the Corner, we have spent the time telling you all that there are some Big 12 schools that are more private equity than others, and there's some ACC schools that are more pro-private equity than others, and there is some cross-pollination going on. There's some cross-pollination going on. Clandestine calls several ACC Big 12 presidents with Smash Capital. So I think there is 35 different Let's talk Notre Dame. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who we have here at Peek Around the Corner. There are forces out there that we don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to contain. We think the walls are closing in on their football independence. They are a remarkable brand, a remarkable university, a standalone university that have been able to survive and thrive in this ever-changing landscape. But there are some things they're not going to be able to control. One of those items is this third-party money. If you remember, for the last year, the second half of 2024, we at Peek Around the Corner had described 2025, the invasion of private equity, private capital, third-party money. And we also reported to you all, we were told that schools and this third-party money thought the bigger the deal, the most advantageous it would be to the schools and to the third-party private equity, private capital firm. Remember, we talked about that. The larger the deal, the better the opportunity. At least that was being sold, and a lot of institutions believe that to be true even today. It is why Jack Swarbrick, the longtime athletic director, the former athletic director of Notre Dame, went and sponsored the Rudy Project, the Super League. Billions and billions and billions of dollars coming on in. We form a 72 Super League, football league, and everybody gets washed with that capital money, and then they set different tiers of media payouts. But Jack Swarbrick sponsored that. You know what Jack Swarbrick doesn't want to happen? Do you know what Bavakwa doesn't want to happen, the current athletic director? Do you want to know what Notre Dame doesn't want to happen? They don't want these conference level private capital, private equity deals. They don't want them because they can't get involved with them, at least to the level of the other schools. ACC, unless they drink ACC's milkshake again on a private capital deal. But they're not a full member of the ACC. They don't have the investment, the tier one money involved. These other conferences are going to be doing some sort of private equity, private capital deal, at least at a conference level. And this is what Notre Dame ain't going to be able to take full advantage of. Notre Dame doesn't want the Big Ten and the SEC to do their own deals. They don't want the Big 12 to do their own deal. And I don't think they want any part of an ACC if they can get themselves together. They've already got unequal revenue sharing. And by the way, that is why some ACC schools are talking to some other Big 12 schools. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to the big article here. Ross Dellenger. An amazing article. With college sports in limbo and key issues coming to a head, the spotlight is on the SEC. It's going to get heated. For 4 decades, each Memorial Weekend, university presidents, athletic administrators, football and basketball coaches from the SEC escape to this jewel. Okay, we're going to skip all this. The SEC leaders began meetings here this week in the midst of a proverbial battle over the future of college athletics, its football and basketball postseason championships, the NCAA's governance role, the inception for the first time of direct revenue sharing with athletes. The SEC old-timers believe it to be the most consequential gathering in the history of the conference. Their decision on the future format of the college football playoff, if one comes at all, stands not only to remake sports postseason, but perhaps reshape the college sports landscape in perpetuity. Their idea on the future of the NCAA governance could be the next step in a long-predicted breakaway from the association. And their path on confronting the growing dissension among the league's own schools to abide by the new NIL clearinghouse and enforcement arm could make or break this impending revenue sharing model. It's going to get heated, quipped one SEC school administrator. It's going to get heated inside the Southeastern Conference. Besides everything else that's going on. The state of college sports. Conflict is everywhere. There is a fight for more control around every peak around the corner. A drive for more money around each bend. The way the economic forces in college sports are going, it's going to exacerbate the gaps between the haves and the have-nots, says Jay Hartzell, the former Texas president who helped bring the Longhorns into the SEC before leaving for SMU. I do worry about schools below a certain threshold, and I do worry about how they're going to keep up and keep competing. The true chaotic, unstable state of the industry can be summed up in one stunning fact. College executives avoided sharing their wealth directly with athletes for so long that they are now in an uncomfortable place awaiting a decision from a 75-year-old California judge to learn how to exactly move forward. Less than 40 days before Division I athletic departments are scheduled to begin paying out what will be more than $1 billion to athletes next academic year, there is no decision in the consolidated antitrust settlement house that is supposed to usher in this new revenue sharing era. The former establishment of the new enforcement entity, the College Sports Commission, remains on hold. And this billion-dollar industry, the engine that educates the youth of America and develops our next great Olympians, remains in limbo. The college football playoff format controversy. Disagreement over the future format of football's postseason. An annual $1.3 billion enterprise has turned into something much more serious. The discord and distrust lingers among the Power Four conferences as the two most valuable leagues. The SEC and the Big Ten assert their authority over the CFP format. The Big Ten and the SEC, two leagues that have financially and intentionally separated themselves from the others, are supporting a 16-team playoff format that grants each 4 automatic qualifiers, twice as many as reserved for the ACC and the Big 12, which would be 2 each. A year-long simmer of format negotiations has reached its boiling point. There exists serious pushback in the proposed format from not only the ACC and the Big 12, but from Notre Dame and some of the other FBS Group of 6 conferences. In this street brawl, it is 2 SEC and the Big 10 against at least 4 other conferences, plus Notre Dame, the most valuable and independent college football program in America. So, of course, it's accurate to say there are pushbacks coming from every which direction. During their meetings last week in Los Angeles, Big Ten meeting last week in Los Angeles. So it just happened last week. Big Ten administrators solidified their support for the so-called 4-4-2-2-1 format. This week, the SEC has a chance to do the same. And what if they do? I guess we're going to war, said one Big 12 athletic director. Now, we have been saying since September of last year. A few months ago, we believe it was a fait accompli by information that we were told about how far along the Big Ten has been in gaming this all out with their media partners, having 4 auto bids, 4-4-2-2-1. The Big 12 and the ACC keep pushing back on this. Big 12 athletic director, I guess we're going to war. If the SEC this week in their meetings, if they solidify their position on the 4-4-2-2-1, at the center of this brewing battle is a memorandum of understanding that 11 members CFP governing board, which is completely different than the autonomy for the 10 FBS conferences in Notre Dame authorized last spring. The document grants format decision-making powers starting in 26 to the SEC and the Big Ten, a move to keep the two Goliaths from separating to form their own playoff. According to most who have viewed the memorandum, the agreement grants the Big Ten and SEC control over the format, but directs them to have meaningful consultation and collect input from other conferences and TV partner ESPN. Have they satisfied the agreement's language to hold meaningful consultation? Some do not believe so and have sought legal counsel over the validity of the document. The SEC, the Southeastern Conference decision on the playoff format, is a pivotal step that may ignite a chain of moves within the conference itself. And we've talked about it. We talked about airplanes landing, right? With the 4 guaranteed spots in the postseason. The SEC administrators are more willing to, 1, add a 9th conference football game that brings in more money. Number 2, eventually strike a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten that would bring in more money. Number 3, remake conference championship weekend with on-campus play-in games, pitting their 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place finishers against one another for the final 2 college football playoff automatic qualifying spots. All of these moves match up more big brands in additional games for, no surprise here, more money at this financially stressful time. But there are other playoff formats in consideration, including a 16-team bracket with a single qualifier for each power conference champion and the best of group of 6 champion, plus 11 at-large bids. A concept supported by the Big 12 and ACC, and one that Sankey has kept in the conversation. However, there is one big problem with that format. It doesn't allow us to do the play-in games, said one SEC school administrator. And I'm not sure we'd have the votes for a ninth conference game either. The flip side, with the 4-4-2-2-1 format, there is a risk of alienating a large swath of college football fan bases, triggering unwanted intervention from congressional lawmakers and adversely impacting relationships with the two other conferences. I think you should earn your way into any playoff, Pitt coach Pat Narduzzi said earlier this month. It comes down to the image of the Big Ten and the SEC. There's a lack of respect for the ACC, and I don't like it. The NCAA governance. The long-discussed breakaway from the NCAA feels closer than ever. The discord that exists among the power conferences over playoff format is not unlike the growing dissension between the 4 power conferences and the other 28 Division I leagues over the future governance. The NCAA is remaking its governance model to align with the July 1st implementation of athletic revenue sharing era. The proposal, socialized with members over the last 2 weeks, grants the power conferences as much as 65% in weighted voting power within rulemaking committees. These groups make key decisions on topics such as when to hold the football transfer portal, who to assign to the basketball tournament selection committee, how to remake the football calendar, and perhaps most notably, given recent lawsuits against it, a player's collegiate athletic eligibility. This week, SEC administrators are expected to examine the conference proposal and the possibility of separating football completely out from under the NCAA. During the spring meetings last week, the Big Ten swung its support for doing just that, bifurcating football governance. So I think we should expect the SEC to do the same thing. In an unreported PATC money shot number 1 or number 2 of the article, and little known fact, SEC presidents in March quietly authorized their Commissioner Sankey to split from the NCAA if he deems that's the right move. So they've already done it. Just a couple months ago, Sankey's got the power, the flexibility to say, we're out of here. We're going to be separating from the NCAA. Now, there are gripes over the NCAA's new governance proposal. The power leagues believing that 65% is not enough, and many of the other 28 Division I conferences believing that 65% is too much. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, Big Sky Conference Commissioner says. There's not going to be any checks or balances for them. There's going to be no limit to what the Power 2 can do if you give them any more. The power conferences have their own issues with the model. At 65%, all 4 of the leagues must vote the same way to pass an issue, a potential impediment to legislation given the growing schism between the Big 2, the Big 10 and the SEC, and the other 2, the ACC and the Big 12. The divide among the 4 power leagues is more evident than ever. So again, those who are wish casting upon a star, thinking that everything is kumbaya just because this autonomy for governance proposal, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what are you doing? What are you saying? What are you thinking? The divide among the four power leagues is more evident than ever. Ross Dellenger is telling you that. Get a grip. Get a grip. Now, this is PATC money shot number 3. This is a big one, and this has a lot of different implications attached to it. So buckle up, brace for impact. The latest example, a recent call that several ACC and Big 12 school presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators held with leaders of a private equity-backed Super League. Clandestine call, okay? And it was recent. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. The call earlier this month was held without the involvement of ACC and Big 12 commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and let you all speculate on that. I don't know if that means anything or not. But again, this is exactly what I reported to you all that we were told was going to happen. I said those exact same words. I said the Big 12 and the ACC were going to meet private capital and it wasn't going to involve their commissioners. I reported that a couple months ago. We had a door open to us. I reported it like 10 different times. I don't know why the commissioners were not going to be involved. I don't know what's going on here. It quite possibly could be something pretty innocent, like for example, there are institutions in the Big 12 and the ACC that really want to do a big deal, a Super League deal amongst the two conferences. That's the most innocent scenario. Okay? Because remember, as we have reported, there are institutions in the Big 12, institutions in the ACC that are more pro-private equity than the others. And they believe the bigger the deal, the better it is for all that are involved. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm a moron, as you all know. I don't know if it's true. But we've been saying this for almost a year now. Now, that's the most innocent version of this. There is more of a nefarious version that might be brewing here, where there might be, some schools in each conference that are, thinking of something different to do, But for now, I'm going to hold my speculation to the fact that maybe, just maybe, there is room, there is space for those two conferences to do something together when it comes to private capital, to do their own version of a Super League. Remember, it's a recent phone call. And remember, they know that the Big Ten and the SEC don't want any involvement with the Super League. And they also know that the Big Ten and the SEC are working on their own private capital deals, which we're going to get to here in just a moment. And we also know that Brett Yormark and the Big 12, we're not anticipating any announcement until the House versus NCAA agreement becomes official, if it does, when it does. But even if it does, when it does, are we going to hear that official announcement? Or is Yormark and the Big 12 holding off on a possibility of something bigger, A bigger bite at the private capital apple? A bigger bite of the apple? To hitch their wagon somewhat to the ACC, not entirely. I am very interested to hear what you all have to say in the comments and with your phone calls. This is the one that is the most interesting among this article that has so many bombs in it. Again, let's be clear. A recent call. Several ACC and Big 12 school presidents with Smash Capital. No involvement of the commissioners. The ACC and the Big 12 schools are not alone in their foray into this world. And by the way, just to remind everybody, Bubba Cunningham and North Carolina are pro private capital, private equity, as we have reported since last fall. While they are against these Super League ideas, both the SEC and the Big Ten are exploring a private equity or private capital infusion. The Big Ten administrators received presentations just last week, at their spring meetings from 4 firms jockeying to purchase a piece of the conference. I'm going to circle back to that in a moment. SEC officials are using Goldman Sachs. SEC officials are using Goldman Sachs, a multinational investment bank and financial services company, to further examine the concept. Even the richest need financial help. While they are against Super League ideas, both the SEC and the Big Ten are exploring private equity or private capital infusion. Big Ten administrators received presentations last week at their spring meetings from 4 firms jockeying to purchase a piece of the conference. The Big Ten Conference has 4 firms jockeying to purchase part of the conference. The Big Ten that has $450 million cash on hand. Why? Now, I get the idea. Look, we were told the only door that has been open to us on any of this is we were given an example. We reported a few months ago about the possibility of the Big Ten getting a third party involved, a capital, private equity firm, private capital, and giving them some revenue streams for them to control, for them to grow, and they lob off and they take a slice of that revenue, and that would be the partnership. In one example we were given, we talked about this a couple months ago, and I put it on a tweet today about like a Big Ten Pro Day, which the Big 12 has, Big Ten Pro Day. All the Big Ten guys who are looking to get drafted, they all come together in one place, and then this third party, this private capital, with all their sponsorships that they have connection with. They'd sponsor the hell out of it. They would sell the rights to it to a streaming company, whatever, and they get this. In other words, the Big Ten was willing to, here, you want to own this? You want to own this event? That's not a live sporting event. You want to own this? You got it. But when we're talking about this report from Ross Dellenger, again, Big Ten administrators received presentations last spring at their spring meetings for 4 firms jockeying to purchase a piece of the conference. And my question is why? I don't have an answer. Again, when this live show is over, even though it's Memorial Day, I'm going to be on the phone, baby. I'm going to be on the phone. We're going to get to your comments and we're going to get to your phone calls here. There's so many, this thing could go so many different ways within each conference. It is undeniable. This article is undeniable. This is a monster of an article. This is a great display of the chaos that is going on. Nobody trusts nobody. Within the conferences, between the Division I 28 conferences versus the Power 4, within the Power 4, ACC, Big 12 versus Big 10, SEC, and Notre Dame is all mixed up in all that. But my question is why? From a Big Ten point of view, why are you willing? You've got for at least $450 million cash on hand. I get it. This is not just about the cash, right? We talked about it with the Big 12. It's not just about getting the cash. It's about getting a relationship built. We've gotten into specifics because of an article that was released on March 28th that I failed to see. We talked about it in a live show yesterday that Redbird Capital has the Skywatch, Sky Media. I don't remember quite the name. It's an asset that they own in which they are trying to merge with Paramount Plus. Paramount that owns Paramount Plus, part the CBS. So you can see why the Big 12 are possibly trying to get in bed with Redbird Capital. But why Big 10? I have been clear. I have been honest. Even though the SEC and the Big 10 have a lot more revenue, a lot more media money than the other two conferences in the Power 4, still half those teams in those conferences are going to be really tight in that $20.5 million rev share, that number that's only going to climb. So that's one reason. But that doesn't satisfy. Why would you sell a piece of the conference? I was on the college football mafia show Friday night with Wild Jute, Moen, and Nathan Brown. And I talked about the Big 12 and what they're doing, what they're trying to do. But there was one point of that show that I said for the very first time, that breakaway clock, I've never had that clock further in the day than maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got that breakaway clock right now at 9 o'clock in the evening. No, it's not 11. No, it's not 10 minutes to midnight, but I do have it at 9 o'clock. I've said since the beginning of this YouTube channel, could there be a breakaway from the Big Ten and SEC breaking away from everybody else? I said yes. But not now, not in 25, not in 26, and I gave the reasons why. But looking at 2030, 31, I said it's a possibility. I've got that clock. I've got it at 9 o'clock. I may have to boost it to 10 o'clock. The Big Ten bringing in to even be looking at selling a percentage of their conference being 10%, they're looking at something bigger, ladies and gentlemen. The SEC looking at Goldman Sachs, they're looking at something much, much bigger. It has actually scared me quite a bit. I'm a college football fan. I like it. I completely understand the economic power of consolidation. It is why USC called the Big Ten. It's why Texas and Oklahoma did what they did. It's why the Big 12 tried to get to the Pac-12 before they got to them. It's all this stuff. And so many people are going at it in so many different ways. There are secret calls between some schools in the Big 12 and the ACC with Smash Capital. There is the SEC in Goldman Sachs. There's the Big Ten and 4 firms jockeying for a part of an ownership of their conference. You've got Notre Dame sitting out there I'm gonna end this talking about Notre Dame, and then we're gonna get to your phone calls. Notre Dame, God bless you. Stephen McNeely, thank you so much for your membership. 18 months, holy smokes. Stephen McNeely, happy Memorial Day, PATC. My goodness. You are officially knighted cloak and dagger, Stephen McNeely. I appreciate all your support for a year and a half. Wow. A year and a half. Those numbers, outstanding. Thank you, Stephen McNeely. Notre Dame, it is virtually impossible, unless you're Notre Dame, and possibly Ohio State, and maybe some schools in the SEC, but it's virtually impossible to survive as a standalone entity. We've talked about so many different reasons why. It is more valuable to bundle up live content. It's more valuable to each institution, including the highest level institutions, because it's less risk to your media partners. NBC's risk is much higher with Notre Dame than it is with the Big Ten package. The Big Ten, like the Big 12s, their media, their bundling of their content, it is less risky for the ESPN and Fox than to have just like 2 of the Big 12 schools, for example. Bundling content together provides more live content, which is more valuable than these talking shows. You get a higher advertiser rate. Going national gives you a larger bandwidth, larger time slots. We've all have learned this over the last 20 years. The Longhorn Network was terrible for ESPN. It wasn't all that good for Texas, even though they made money on it, because nobody watched the Longhorn Network. Nobody watched their Olympic sports. They did not provide enough live content for the channel, for their advertisers, for ESPN. That's why the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC networks work, because you got a bundle of content. You've got all this content coming on through. Same thing with these conference media deals. But Notre Dame's been able to survive. They're a national brand. They're a monster of a brand. They're incredibly valuable as a brand. Great school. But here is another added component to the change in landscape. These conferences are going to be making some sort of big old deals with a lot of money on the outside. And as they stand alone, you just can't make the same type of deal. Not to the same level as these conferences. At least this is what's been told all over the place. This is why Notre Dame wanted to do a Super League. Jack Swarbrick wanted the money to flush through 72 teams, not just a conference, and to leave Notre Dame out. Although Notre Dame will probably be part and parcel of some ACC conference deal if the ACC can make a deal. They may have to make it with the Big 12 or some of the ACC schools, whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to let you all go down that rabbit hole. There are so many different things in this article. Expedition Greg, thank you so much for the membership. Holy smokes. You are knighted. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger. Thank you, Expedition Greg, for all your support. Thank you so much. Jonathan Anderson, you were gifted a membership from Expedition Greg. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you for Expedition Greg and his incredible generosity once again. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye. I appreciate it. Mr. Wolverine, Curtis. Then the Big Ten and the SEC get the 9 conference games, playing games, SEC Big Ten Alliance, offer a financial value, will reach the stratosphere financially. This along with why Notre Dame needs this gravy train. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate your generosity, your super chat. Do we have to talk about Notre Dame? Daniel Gorby, Seminole win. Curtis, one of the many interesting parts of this incredible article by Ross Dellenger today is it sounds like the Big Ten is talking to their own firms that are jockeying for position to buy ownership of the conference. The SEC is having Goldman Sachs advise them. At least for now, it doesn't seem like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get into the same bed together when it comes to private capital, private equity. Maybe, just maybe, the Big 12 and the ACC will jump in together. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll just be the Big 12. Or maybe just some of the Big 12, some of the AC. Let's get to your phone calls right now. Let's get to your phone calls. Again, we are going to be live as long as it takes to get through your phone calls. There is a lot of stuff here. The phone line is open. 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. The line is open. Thank you, Curtis, so much for your generosity, like always. Mr. Wolverine. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Again, we had to do this live show. Vox, Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk. I'm confident that Goldman Sachs rate won't be predatory. I am confident. Greg just answered your question, James Davis. Okay, let's go through these comments until we get a phone call. Edward the Auburn Tiger is in the house. Turn off that TV and go fishing, Ron is saying. Coos Corner, if he was only the commissioner of the Big 12, he would rock and roll. IOC, man, the Big Ten is boring and sorry for the most part. Why would you trust sinking Petiti? Really, I mean, Stormy Cyclone. Still Austin. This is about competition and improving college football. The Big Ten and the SEC don't want to play against the ACC, Big 12 anymore, the same way the ACC and the Big 12 don't want to play against the G6. Greed is good. Opie, to me, the biggest thing. Opie D-Don. To me, the biggest thing out of that article is that the SEC presidents have placed all their faith and power in one man's hand. That says a lot to me. So all eyes on Sankey. It also says to me, Opie, that they've had a lot of discussions. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I'm scared. Okay? I'm laughing because I'm scared of everything right now in college football. But Opie, I agree with you. For them to give Sankey the power to break away from the NCAA either entirely or just basically entirely. They've had a lot of discussions on it already. That is the thing here. I mean, there is a lot of talk going on right now. The Big Ten, like those 4 auto bids that I've been talking about since September, and I said it's basically a fait accompli because we were told that they are so far down that rabbit hole, and they've got the SEC convinced that it's best for them because now the SEC can go to 9 conference games without having fear. They can do a crossover schedule. That's not going to hurt them. They're going to have play-in games. The SEC can make all this money. All these discussions are so far gone. When we gave you the peek around the corner last September, now we're sitting here in May. But what do you guys think about the Big 12 what do you guys think about some of the Big 12 presidents and some of the ACC presidents having to call a secret call, according to Ross Dellenger, with Smash Capital? Let me know in the chat room or give me a phone call. The phone lines are open. Let me know what you think of that. Forget about the Big Ten. Forget about the SEC. What do you think about the Big 12 and the ACC having a secret phone call with Smash Capital? What the hell is going on? Are they about to create a super league? Okay. How many? Well, it was. Yes, it was. It was. Let me. Hopefully, I can find it here. Clandestine call. That means it was done in secret. I'm not going to be able to find it. Not going to be able to find it. Hold on. Here we go, right here. Was it done in secret? The latest example was a recent clandestine call that several ACC, Big 12 school presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators held with leaders of a private equity-backed super league. The call early this month, early May, was without the involvement of ACC Big 12 commissioners. I mean, come on, guys. You guys have got to be speculating in your minds. What the heck does that mean?
From
Moen.
Moen, the floor is yours. Mr. Buckeye, I'm so glad you called. This is an explosive article. So many different directions involving so many different conferences. You've got a secret phone call, Moen. Big 12, ACC, some of them, not all of them, some presidents, not all of them. It takes me back to the Magnificent Seven. Are we looking at a Magnificent 16, cross-pollination? Or are we not? Are we looking at something more innocent than that? Possibly a Super League between the two leagues? Moen, give me your thoughts. I'm going to shut up.
Well, I think if you're an athletic director or president in the Big 12 or ACC right now, you've got to be wondering.
Yeah.
You've certainly got to be wondering.
What if you were not a part of that phone call?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'd imagine like Wake Forest probably wasn't included in that phone call.
Although they are pro-private equity.
They are pro-private equity,
Yeah.
but I doubt they were included in that phone call. I think you're probably going to see the top brands from the Big 12 and the ACC ultimately being the ones that were involved in that. I'd imagine Kansas is probably involved.
Utah.
North Carolina State, Utah, BYU, SMU. SMU just got into the ACC. Now they've got to worry about this. So it's certainly interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know where this all leads to.
I don't either.
I don't know, but I mean, Notre Dame once again rears their ugly head. We know Jack Swarbrick was behind one of those original Super Leagues. I don't know if it was a Smash Capital one, but he was pushing that before, and it sounds like he's pushing that yet again.
Well, Notre Dame they need to have it come in at a big Super League level, right? So they can get you're correct. Notre Dame is probably part of this ACC Big 12 call with Smash Capital. I bet Notre Dame was on that call.
I bet Notre Dame orchestrated that call, Greg.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I think they orchestrated it. You have seen Notre Dame do everything they can to remain as an independent power in college football over the last 18 months. And I think they're still going to run it. At this point, if I'm the Big Ten, I just let them go. Let them go take Miami +1 and call it a day. And I'm sure the SEC has to be looking at this as well for their expansion moving forward and saying, hey, let's go ahead and expand and get our expansion in there. That way we can get our free college football playoff 4 AQs and our scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. And, it's all money on top of money on top of money on top of money.
So let me ask you this. I'm afraid to go there, but we only live once, Moen, and my time is short. So I'm not on this live show, but I'm just talking life in general. We have been told, we have reported that, the Big 12, they're looking at these deals, private equity deals. Who knows? Maybe they're holding off. Maybe they're looking at something bigger. Maybe they're looking at a possible Super League thing with the ACC, or maybe it's their top brands. We don't know. But we reported it months ago. We were told that one of the aspects of the Big 12, these deals that we're looking at, some of them were going to include UConn, University of Connecticut. And maybe, these private equity would want University of Connecticut in there because a lot of this is New York money. All these capital firms are basically in New York City. These law firms attached with these equity firms, attached with these streaming companies. I'm wondering, I'm afraid to go there, but we're going to go there, Moen. You're looking at the Big Ten. The Big Ten. God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Moen, I'm sorry, but we got to go there. The Big Ten, possibly, it doesn't mean they're going to do it, but according to this Ross Dellenger article, the Big Ten has got 4 firms jockeying to buy a certain percentage of the conference. Okay, Moen? That's what it says.
Yep.
If you have a private capital, private firm buying a percentage of your conference, the next time and let's say that happens, let's just say it happens. They're already down the road quite a bit. Let's say it happens. That private equity, private capital firm is going to have a say in how and when and with whom the Big Ten expands with next. Correct, Moen?
You would imagine.
You would imagine.
Some say.
Okay. So let's do some more pretending here. Again, this is just speculation. Speculation. So, if you're looking at a private capital, private firm, private equity firm, willing to buy, let's say, 10% of the conference, it's going to bring a whole bunch of cash, some connections, a whole lot of new sponsorships. You're going to have the Buckeyes and the Gophers probably wear the same sponsorship patch on the uniforms. And if they're not the same sponsorship patch, it's all coming from the same revenue of big old money. It's all going to be uniform. It's all going to be coordinated. Coordinated. That's the word I'm looking for. And that private firm and capital has a say in your next expansion move. Because remember, we've been talking about presidents versus the media companies. You got to scratch their backs to get into the Big Ten. Well, you throw a third one in there, a private capital, private equity. What would a private capital and private equity firm look at when they want a good investment if they're buying you 10% of the conference? Where do their interests lie for the Big Ten to grow from 18 to 20 members, 18 to 22 members? I don't have the answers to that, Moen, but I would say this. I think it increases the possibility of the Big Ten growing beyond the number growing beyond the number 20. With whom, I don't know who that would favor. But the number, I would think it makes it more plausible that the number grows beyond 20. But other than that, I don't know how to speculate on it. Do you have any thoughts, Moen?
Hey, those are all great questions, Greg. I wish I had answers for you. It depends. What's this private equity company going to be investing in for the conference? Are they investing in more basketball-centered things? Would they look at more targets from a basketball point of view, like Duke? Maybe they're looking at it as a research thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, pharmaceutical stocks are always up. Maybe they're looking at it from that point of view and they want to get the best research universities in there. Again, that would benefit Duke, obviously. Private universities, they don't have to hassle with the state like Miami. You don't have to worry about the state. You're getting a private university in there. You don't have to worry about any of that. But, I mean, ultimately, Greg,
there is no university that is, how do I say this? There is no more alumni base that is more heavily involved in private equity than Duke's alumni base. I'll just leave that alone for now. But I'm just telling you, Google it. Google it. Do whatever you need to do. Talk with anybody you need to talk to. Duke alumni base basically runs and owns these private equity corporations, a lot of them. So go ahead, Mo, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to is, who do you trust?
I don't trust anybody right now.
That's my point of view too. How would you trust anybody? I mean, look at the last 5 years of college athletics. Oklahoma and Texas, out the door. Greg Sankey dealing with Bob Bowlesby, front and center, and then stabbing him in the back. You've got the alliance that ultimately ended up killing the Pac-12. And you've got the Pac-12. Hey, everybody was all on board with the Apple deal until the day of, when Oregon and Washington were able to get exactly what they needed. And then they weren't. So, I mean, I don't know who to trust anymore. Who do you trust?
I mean, what? Yeah, I think there's distrust everywhere. There's so many parts of this. I cannot get over the fact. I was told, I don't know, I wish I had the dates on this, but people in the chat room, we had about 10 people confirmed that I did report the following. I reported, Moen, a few months ago. I said, I was told in detail, there was going to be a meeting between some Big 12 schools, some ACC schools, about a private capital, and that the commissioners were not going to be involved. They were not going to be invited. Like it was even known a couple months ago that this was going to happen. And I said it was going to happen in early spring. It looks like it happened in early May, according to this report. Now, why aren't the commissioners involved in that secret phone call? Why wouldn't they be involved? I mean, like you said, if you are an ACC school or a Big 12 school and you read Ross Dellenger's article today and you were not invited on that call and you did not know about that call up until now, what are your thoughts? I mean, we've already lived through the Magnificent Seven where the other schools didn't know that was going on in the ACC. We already had the Big Ten stab the Pac-12 in the back. We already had Oklahoma and Texas leave while Sankey was in the room with Bowlesby. Is something like that brewing within the Big 12 and the ACC? Or is it something more innocent? I don't know. But like you say, Mo, nobody trusts anybody right now. The SEC, there are schools in the SEC that are looking at schools like Tennessee and saying, why should you have this great advantage over us where you don't have to pay attention to the rev share because of your state law? It's incredible out there, man. One thing we do know, Moen, it's not kumbaya anywhere in college football.
Yeah, I will leave you with this, Greg. The reason the commissioners were not in the room is because the commissioners represent every member of a conference.
Woo!
And there were clearly members of the conference whose interests were not being looked at or looked out for in this conversation that was going on between Smash Capital, select ACC schools, and select Big 12 schools.
My last question to you, sir, because I know you got a life. It's Memorial Day. You guys have to. I don't want to put pressure on you, Mo, and I know you're a busy man, but College Football Mafia Show, you guys have got to tackle this. I don't know if you can do it tonight, but you got to go. You got to get to this incredible article of Ross Dellenger.
I agree with you 100%, Greg, but the most interesting thing about that article, it mentions the Big Ten and the SEC as the villains. Those are the villains you can see, people. Those aren't the ones that are going to stab you in the back. If I'm a Big 12 member right now, I'm making some calls if I wasn't in that meeting.
Yeah.
If I'm an ACC member, I'm making some calls to my commissioner on why I wasn't in that meeting.
Yeah.
And why my commissioner wasn't in that meeting representing
And
representing
why?
me.
And how did and let's say this wasn't a quote unquote nefarious special meeting. Let's say it wasn't innocent. Who gave Dellenger that information? And somebody gave Dellenger the okay to put it out there. I mean, geez.
Yeah, that's another question all of its own, Greg. But
yeah.
Right now, if I'm the Big 12, listen, man. If you weren't in that meeting, you need to be calling people.
Yeah.
You need to be figuring stuff out, because if you haven't noticed over the last 5 years, there's no friends in this.
Yeah.
There's no friends. People will stab you in the back and the front, and they will cut your hamstring right out from underneath you.
Yikes. All right, Mo, and hopefully you guys can tackle this sooner rather than later.
All right. Well, hey, everybody have a happy Memorial Day.
All right, man. Appreciate the call. Beautiful call. Unbelievable.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Moen. Great phone call. I just missed a call. Please call back. Phone lines are not open. Opie, there will be something. Hold on, Opie. I'll get to you in a second. I do apologize.
From
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Can you hold on for a moment, please?
Sure can.
I'm behind. I apologize. Opie, there will be something strategically leaked from these SEC meetings. Well, that's the thing. I mean, good Lord. Ross Dellenger just put this thing out. I mean, Goldman Sachs, SEC schools are not happy with each other because of the state laws. But yeah, more is coming, Opie. More is coming. Again, if you're new to this channel, you've got to subscribe and you've got to get it notified so when we come on, because we can come on live at any time. There's so much stuff going on. Unbelievable time in college football. Thank you, Opie, for your incredible generosity. Once again, my goodness. Rock and Rant, thank you so much for your patience. The floor is absolutely yours. Let it rip. What the heck do you think is going on?
Well, we probably will go off in 13 directions, so I'm going to try to at least remember 3 things first and then see what happens. One, this might be one of the most interesting articles that I can ever remember.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like Ross Dellenger went to the Bellagio buffet. and all the most elite topics of college football, like food, were there. It wasn't like the $1.99 buffet. It was like everything crazy, all in one article, like almost without question. So before I forget, a comment and then I'll pause and breathe. The other reason the commissioner may not be there, besides Moen's point of, hey, he represents all the schools, is it could also be if you think that your commissioner is trying to preserve self-interest as well, right? If you want to make a decision because he's trying to keep the conference together, and if you don't know that you want to do that, you might not want to have like a negative voice in the ring. So there's that. The other 2 points that are relatively minor, well, I don't know. I think they're major, but one is I'm old enough to remember everybody telling me that all of the schools needed to have enforcement and wanted to have enforcement, and the SEC was out front about that, right?
Yeah.
And now the SEC can't, Greg Sankey pontificating, the SEC can't decide among themselves that they want to follow the rules that they told us all we want everybody to follow on the clearinghouse as just one example. And then the thing that's a little bit baffling to me is if the story the other day about the playoffs and this like asinine 16 thing and going to that in terms of like the plans and all this other stuff, why would Notre Dame have any objection to what the playoffs are going to be? Because everything we've read so far or you've discussed in your show about the move to 16 makes Notre Dame king come out like kings. So what is their objection to the playoff? Because all that happens to them, from what I can tell, is they can get a home game maybe, depending upon the format. They could get a triple bye, as you alluded to, depending upon the format. And now they just have to show up in the top 16 to make it into the playoffs, not the top 12. So that part is utterly baffling to me as well. So, I don't even know where to go.
I possibly might have it very well could be Notre Dame is pretty much against anything that would put the ACC at a lower status, because Notre Dame wants ACC, as much of it as it possibly can, to survive. As much a value to survive within the ACC, so they can keep their relationship, so they can keep their value up with NBC and other things. So that's the only thing I could. Yeah, everything else, Notre Dame ain't gonna have no problem with any playoff format, because it all suits them perfectly fine. But they're probably looking at like SEC. We want, if we can get the ACC to have 3 out of biz instead of 2, that's much better. Or if we can get the Big Ten and the SEC go from 4 to 3, or the ACC sticks at 2, that's better. That's my only. Maybe that's the thing they're thinking about. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, but even if you take that, look, I know they're never joining the ACC, but if that's their fear about the ACC going, right now they have to play 5 of the ACC schools, right? They're going to play Clemson even in the years that it's not one of the 5 games. So that means like in some years they're playing 6. And I don't even know, I can't remember anymore whether Stanford counts or doesn't count against that cap. They could just insist the ACC play 8 conference games, not go to 9, so they always have 4 out of conference games. And if Stanford's in one of their conference games, and if they're losing USC anyway, they could get all the scheduling flexibility they already had anyway without losing a rivalry and preserve the ACC.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Right? If you're going to lose SC, right?
Yep.
And if you fix your schedule by making sure, like, go to the ACC and say, actually, we need to play Clemson, Florida State, and Miami every single year, but we'll come to the conference. Yeah. You now get those things that they just got. You get Stanford folded in, if it is or isn't. If USC is gone, they're gone, depending upon what happens, right? If you're not going to go to any conference and you're going to lose them, they're gone. So now you have, what other 4 schools outside of that combination of, like, weak sauce games you're already playing against the sisters of the poor of the ACC already, the ones you just said you wanted to get anyway from the big ones, what are the 4 schools you're going to play anyway annually that you couldn't do regardless? So if it's a big state, I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but as all these other dominoes start to fall, the landscape of that decision becomes different. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. The SEC thing on the NIL clearinghouse thing is amazing to me, since they were the loudest recently about we need enforcement. They can't even agree in their own conference about it.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a Big Ten question, and I should have asked Mullen this, and I screwed up. But in the article, it alludes to that there are 4 firms jockeying among themselves to potentially, they presented themselves to the Big Ten. They did it this last week to buy a percentage of the Big Ten. My question to you is, from a Big Ten perspective, why? Why are you willing to do this? What is the motivation? What is the end game? What is going on? Do you have any thoughts, speculations on that?
I mean, the only thing I'm relatively baffled, because, like, to me, if I was a Big Ten, you want that money to leverage to parlay into more money, right? Mm-hmm. That's like, it's really not so it's private equity that they're going to, like, buy your, tools company and leverage it out, right? Or Goodfellas it and, like, blow out your restaurant, right, as an equity partner that, like, burns it down. So I don't know why they would want to go that next step unless they have this feeling that the present value of that money is worth whatever you're going to do. Like, I don't know, music artists, Pink Floyd selling their music catalog publishing out for $1 gazillion today. How would be worth more later, but they're just going to get it now because they just feel like this might be the best moment, and maybe they'll be proven wrong. But in the meantime, they still made $1 gazillion to bridge this gap. Maybe they're worried that, what's going on with academia over the next 4 years could be fatal in some way. And they just need the money because we apparently don't want to actually have cures for diseases anymore as a country. So, because God help us. I'm sorry, I'm so sick of it. I know that's a different rant, but they are worried about research, right? In general, right now. So maybe they're really worried about research. And so like a bird in the hand kind of thing, get the money to like help bridge it. And maybe it's like a different thing. Maybe that's why they're changing their point of view, because if they've done a rough calculus that, hey, we're going to lose X% of our NIH. Like, that's the only thing I could think of off of the top of my head. But that might be a thing, especially for the Big Ten, where research is such a massive thing. I mean, it's such a massive thing that you, Moen, everybody else who talks about the Big Ten always talks about realignment in the context of and the Big Ten consortium.
Yes, you're right. You're right on that. Does
that even make sense? Like, I don't know, but like everything in college football is topsy-turvy, and everything about how their research is funded right now is questionable.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know when are you going to be able to tackle the Ross Dellenger article?
I don't know. We're all a bunch of nut jobs. I might have to wait till you're over and just keep talking about it, because like we could talk about this for 3 freaking hours.
Yeah. Yes, I know. But like, are you going to get with your Miami guys or with Moen, or what's your plan right now?
I don't know. Probably going to try to figure out something tonight or tomorrow, just because this is so ludicrous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing article. Like,
it's
Ross
an amazing
Dellenger,
article.
All props to him. He was probably sitting on some of this thing going,
yeah,
how can I just literally launch into SEC? I mean, it's a really smart timing of the article, right?
Yeah.
For him alone, but for like writers in general, because he's publishing this. He's one of the 3, college football gods writer-wise right now, right? Maybe the preeminent one in this kind of area. Because like people like Bruce Feldman don't do this stuff as much as they might have done 20 years ago. They become more columnist, less reporter. But putting this bomb of like, here's 17 bombs, decide which one you want to ask the SEC guy about tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever their meetings happen. It's like great timing to have every even average to bad reporter who follows the SEC, who's going to be there, ask a lot of questions, both good and bad. So, and maybe it's also because, everybody getting it out there, because for all we know, tomorrow morning, Judge Volkin's going to come back, and I'm still going to ride on the storm. Like, I don't think it's coming out the way anybody wants it to, at least not in the short term, which would just be adding, a whole other level of chaos to the speculation that comes out of this article.
Yeah.
And I also think it's interesting that you mentioned that Sankey's still not opposed to the 111 and 11 auto bids. He's probably smart. Like, if I was him, you have to do the math equation of what do we lose in the playing games versus the possibility we could get like 7 or 8 teams in a given year. Because the SEC in a given year could maybe get 7 or 8 teams in with that.
That's true. That's true. I just know that they needed Big Ten support on a few other items, like the Deloitte and the enforcement. They needed their, like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of
It's a stream of consciousness. Like, choose your journey of like what insanity do you want to go down, but it's all based off of reality, which makes it even more completely wicked. I mean, you could just use that article if you did a paragraph a day, you'd have a show.
Yep, you would. Yep. All right, man. I appreciate the call, Rock and Rant.
All right. Thanks for jumping on today. Appreciate it.
Yep, beautiful. Great call, Rock and Rant. He's correct. This article This article could have been 5 different live shows, but it all came out at once. It came out on Memorial Day. Thank you to Maria Hernandez Flugard. We'll get to her in a second.
From
Edward the Auburn Tiger.
Edward the Auburn Tiger. Can you just hold on for one moment, please?
I sure can,
I
sir.
just wanted to give a shout out to the one who rules with an iron fist, the wife, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar. I picked her up from work. She works the holidays. She works at the hospital. She works very, very hard. And I said, honey, you're not going to believe it, but a bomb went off here on Memorial Day and I got to go live. And she said, go ahead. So thank you, honey. I appreciate it. Love you very much. Thank you for all the support you give us here at Peek Around the Corner, giving us the time to talk college football. She is the overlord. No question about it. Thank you, honey. Appreciate it. Edward the Auburn Tiger, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours. And my question to you is the same question I had with Rock and Rant and Moen. What the hell is going on around here? Go ahead, sir.
It's a lot happening, Greg. A lot happening.
Yeah.
I think I speak for all of the PATC family. We do thank the little general for allowing us to share you with her. This show means so much to so many, and we appreciate her, and we appreciate you as well. And Greg, I am a little disappointed with you, Greg. Because 2 or 3 years ago, you was banging the drum that 2026 was going to be the gold rush, and what's happening is all about the gold rush.
Yeah, but this is not what I was. This is not what I was.
I know.
I was talking about the college football playoffs. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But when you look at, it's all about the money.
Yeah.
And one thing we have to really settle on, Greg, is this: the NIL era and the House settlement has fundamentally changed college football in the way we know it. It changed everything, and it caused a chasm to where we are now. Conferences are having to think differently. Schools are having to think differently and how they're moving forward when it comes to college football. We're really at an inflection point right now, Greg. I just saw the other day the SEC, ABC football games won the Emmy Award for the live show this year. First time college football has ever done that. SEC is thinking bigger things. Football is increasing. Basketball is increasing. Softball, baseball, gymnastics, track, everything is rising in the SEC. And they're moving forward. Them as well as the Big Ten. And how they're thinking right now, there's so much pressure on the ACC and Big 12 right now. They have to respond. Because if they don't respond, if these schools within those conferences do not respond, they're absolutely going to be left behind. You said several years ago that all these schools are going to try to meet that stratification point. Well, it's here. And if you don't meet that point, you're going to miss out on what I'm calling a new gold rush, I guess you could say, on the monies, the exposure, the power, the entity, everything that college football is about to be. And so it's caused a lot of pressure, Greg. You can see it. The people are making decisions they would have never made. People are thinking more internally than they ever have. Everyone's trying to climb that mountain. And whether you're the conference, whether you're an individual school, and it's almost caused a panic if you're not in the power too. And I think that's what we're feeling. We're feeling the tremors that's getting greater and greater. And it seems like, Greg, every day, this thing is progressing. The news is coming out. Things are moving forward almost exponentially. Like I didn't hear the whole show, beginning of the show, but I heard like the last parts of it. This is an explosion, absolute explosion. What a time we're living in, Greg.
Yeah, it's I got a feeling that we're going to be having days with multiple live shows. We've had a couple of them during the month of May. I think we're going to finish out the month of May because there's going to be single reports coming off of this massive report by Ross Dellenger, right? There's going to be reports focusing on individual parts of all the things that have been covered by Ross Dellenger, and we're going to be covering all of them here at Peek Around the Corner. I mean, the SEC having Goldman Sachs. I mean, that story itself is massive. The Big Ten, that whole thing, the Big 12 and the ACC, looking to some schools in the Big 12, some schools in the ACC, had a phone call with Smash Capital earlier this month. The commissioners were not involved. You got the playoff battle. You got the governance battle. You've got so many things going on here. We are in, as Edward the Auburn Tiger said, this is, every day there is going to be something going on that we're going to have to cover. So please subscribe and smash the like button. Stick with this here at Peek Around the Corner. Go ahead, Edward the Auburn Tiger. Go ahead, finish the call. Great call,
yes,
sir.
But this is unprecedented. I mean, like you said, breaking news every day. And just, I mean, think about SEC and Goldman Sachs. Whoever would have thought such a thing? Whoever would have put their mind around that? That tells you that this is so far down the road.
Yes.
That tells you that they're thinking beyond what we've been discussing about the 16-team playoffs and a few schools here and a few schools there. They're talking about just a gigantic big change in college football. I mean, could you imagine these teams, Greg, in a short, maybe 4, 5, 6 years from now, making $200 million a year per team because of this, because of the condensation of the school, the condensation of the schools, and the money pool becoming greater with fewer number of schools playing in college football. I mean, you're talking about really just a shade below the NFL. And obviously, this money is approaching them. If you have 4 entities approaching the Big Ten, Goldman Sachs coming towards the SEC, that tells you that money is coming at these two conferences. And there's money to be made. And that's not even talking about what ESPN and Fox is thinking. But they have the full backing, and you better believe they're moving in unison. And it's going to be awesome to watch how this unfolds, Greg. It really is. And I appreciate all you do, man, because you're keeping us right on the edge.
Yep.
Oh, what's happening? And we thank you.
Thank you. I thank you, Edward the Auburn Tiger, for being a part of the PATC family. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate the call.
Appreciate everything, Greg. Have a great day.
Great call. Great call. Charles M. By the way, Charles, I appreciate all the comments you leave in the comments section after the live shows. I appreciate it, Charles. The entirety of the college football could leave the P2 behind. They don't need the P2 as much as the P2 need the rest. There is so many interesting parts of this article, and I keep going back to this one. What if there was no nefarious things going on? What if this is about a super league? What if this part of the article is about, look, a recent clandestine call, that means secretive. At some level, it was secretive. Several ACC and Big 12 school presidents, high-ranking athletic administrators, held with leaders of a private equity-backed super league. Smash Capital. Okay? I'm not saying it's happening. I'm just speculating off this one little part of the article. What if the ACC and the Big 12 are seriously taking the Super League idea, but doing it without the Big 10 and the SEC? What if they're going, let's do this thing. Let's do it. We bring value. There's billions of dollars that want to come in. Let's be the Super League within this ecosystem. We combine our content together. We split up our conference. We can do more regionalization. We have the $1 billion coming on in. We grant ownership of a little bit of our conference or whatever to this smash capital. We become the Super League. We might not get the $9 billion because the Big Ten and the SEC won't be involved. But what if we get $4 or $5 billion? What if we bet on ourselves? What if the deal, the Big 12 is holding off because this deal is better if we include the Atlantic Coast Conference teams? What if this paragraph really is involving everybody, the 17 ACC schools, the 16 Big 12 schools? What if you add 3 more schools? What if it's 36 schools in this Super League? What if you have 8 divisions of 8 schools and for football, and you divide them up in regionality when it comes to Olympic sports? I'm just throwing out ideas. And you say, look, we can do this. Everything that we've liked about the super deal proposal. And what if, get this? What if Notre Dame is involved in this? As Moen has speculated. What if Notre Dame is leading this charge? I don't know. Or it could be something that not every Big 12 and ACC school is involved with. And then we've got an unbelievable story going in a completely different direction. I don't know, guys. I don't know. The summer of survival, sabotage. I do know this. I do know this. Antoine Johnson says there won't be a Super League. Maybe a new conference is going to be created, and that's a possibility. That's a possibility. Especially if Florida State and Clemson cannot find a home in the P2. And some other things shall happen. I don't know. Buckle up and brace for impact. I do know this. The idea that everybody is kumbaya together. The idea just because there's some governance, Power 4 conference that might have 65% of the vote, this governance, this has not brought about peace to the land. It's a ridiculous notion. There is no kumbaya going on. Everybody's looking at each other. Everybody fears each other. Everybody is suspicious of each other. Everybody is looking out for only themselves. I want to thank everybody who has joined us for this incredible, massive live show because of Ross Dellenger's unbelievable article that he has put out here on Memorial Day. If you came here late, go back to the beginning. There is so much that we covered on this live show. I want to thank Bill G., Stephen McNeely, Expedition Greg, Curtis, Ryan Willie. I did not even see Ryan Willie's super chat. I apologize. And Opie. Ryan Willie, I can't call right now, but the House versus NCAA is like the Brad Paisley song, Waiting on a Woman. Maybe I'll have to sing that song, Ryan Willie. Maybe I will have to sing that song in an episode. I'll take a look at it. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity so very much. Thank you, Opie, for your generosity. Everybody, the phone calls, Moen, Rock and Rant, and Edward the Auburn Tiger. I want to thank everybody in the chat room to spend a little bit of time with us here at Peek Around the Corner on Memorial Day. Thank you so very much. Phil Robertson passed away. God rest his soul. The guy from the Duck Show, whatever. Stormy Cyclone, thank you so very much. Unbelievable. Unbelievable show. Thank you guys. Before you leave, please subscribe to our channel and open up those notifications, because we are going to be coming on live at crazy times. We might have to come on live later on tonight or early tomorrow morning, because the stories are not going to stop. April chatters, but May is going to matter, and you're seeing that right now play out. Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports. Holy smokes. We're going to have to go back in the Holy Smokes Theater. There's a lot of work we got to do here at Peek Around the Corner. Buckle up, brace for impact, keep your head on a swivel, subscribe and get yourself notified, because we are not going anywhere until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.